Braun Strowman teases a big announcement. Xavier Woods gives a hilarious response to Jim Ross's trombone comments on AEW Dynamite. And former champion wants to work with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. Hello everyone, Jose G here, bringing you today's top stories in today's Sportskeeda Wrestling News Roundup. To stay up to date with all of our content, be sure you like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Former WWE Champion comments on fans chanting for CM Punk. WWE Hall of Famer Kevin Nash seemingly isn't a big fan of the CM Punk chants, if his latest tweet is any indication. Sean Ross Sapp recently posted a tweet asking fans if CM Punk's return would kill his chance in WWE. The tweet garnered a response from the former WWE Champion Kevin Nash himself, who feuded with Punk back in 2011. Kevin Nash doesn't care about the CM Punk chants in the least. He responds to Ross's tweet with the question, "Who cares?" CM Punk was the hottest act in all of pro wrestling a decade ago. His WWE title win over John Cena at Money in the Bank 2011 was one of the biggest moments in pro wrestling. He returned to WWE mere days after leaving Money in the Bank with the title and confronted John Cena. The duo faced off in a huge rematch at SummerSlam 2011, which saw Punk defeat Cena again. To everyone's surprise, Kevin Nash came out and attacked Punk, following which Alberto Del Rio cashed in his Money in the Bank contract on the fallen champion to win the coveted title. Punk kicked off a feud with Nash that didn't go anywhere, and a lot of fans were upset at Nash's involvement in a promising angle. Punk later defeated Del Rio for the WWE title at Survivor Series and went on to hold the same title for a whopping 434 days. His historic title reign came to an end in the 2013 Royal Rumble event, where The Rock put him down to become the new WWE Champion. Punk would leave WWE a year later due to several reasons that he discussed in detail on Colt Cabana's podcast. If the latest rumors are true, CM Punk's fans will get to see him wrestle again soon. The CM Punk chant can still be heard on WWE shows occasionally, and it isn't a stretch to say that Punk is one of the most popular names in wrestling even today. Braun Strowman teases a big announcement. Former WWE superstar Braun Strowman has teased a big announcement on his official Instagram account. Braun Strowman was let go by WWE in June in what came as a surprise to most fans. The monster among men was the Universal Champion last year and had defeated WWE Hall of Famer Goldberg for that title. Strowman has been updating fans on his whereabouts via his Instagram account ever since his release. In his latest story, Braun Strowman had a message for his fans. The former Universal Champion teased a big announcement, seemingly in regards to his career. Braun Strowman's arrival on the main roster was well received by the WWE Universe in 2015, and he quickly established himself as a monster heel. Strowman's run with the Wyatt family was followed by a single stint that saw him take on some of WWE's biggest names like Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. Strowman's loss to Brock Lesnar at No Mercy 2017 was a big blow to his push, taking into account the fact that it took Lesnar a single F5 to finish him off. It took a while for Strowman to recover from the loss. He challenged Goldberg for the Universal title at WrestleMania 36 and went on to put him down at the Show of Shows to win his first and only major title. It was recently reported that WWE is interested in bringing back Braun Strowman, especially after all the recent AEW signings. Braun Strowman has been silent about his next move ever since his release from WWE, but it looks like he is about to spill the beans about his future. Xavier Woods gives a hilarious response to Jim Ross's trombone comments on AEW Dynamite. WWE's Xavier Woods gave a hilarious response to Jim Ross's trombone comments on AEW Dynamite. The legendary commentator said that there was no place for musical instruments in pro wrestling during the show. The trusty trombone Francesca is something that has become synonymous with Woods, and the New Day member has brought the instrument to a WWE ring for several years now. Whether it's his love for music or his love of distracting opponents, Francesca has not been too far away from Woods during a match ever since the trombone's debut in 2015. During this week's edition of AEW Dynamite, Team Taz celebrated a festive celebration to honor Ricky Starks, who won the FTW Championship from Nick Gage 2 weeks ago. The celebration had a grandstand, which was manned by Taz, and a marching band surrounding the ring. As Ricky Starks and Hook walked down the ring, the marching band played a tune. Starks would brag about winning the FTW title and kicking Brian Cage out of the team. Unfortunately, it woke up the machine. Brian Cage made his way to the ring, but not before completely laying out the trombone player with a vicious clothesline. This would prompt AEW Dynamite announcer Jim Ross to say, quote, "There's no place for trombones in wrestling," end quote. It didn't take long for Xavier Woods to respond with the following tweet. The video was of Keegan-Michael Key of Key and Peele fame spoofing the ESPN documentary The Last Dance on Saturday Night Live, where Michael Jordan used the famous line, "And I took that personally." The tweet instantly took off with over 1,500 likes in just over 30 minutes. Xavier Woods followed up his first one with another hilarious tweet later on in the evening. WWE Hall of Famer on Nick Gage's wrestling style. Nick Gage, who recently dropped the GCW Championship to Matt Cardona earlier this week, will be making his AEW debut in a no-rules match against Chris Jericho. Former WCW President and WWE Hall of Famer Eric Bischoff is apparently no fan of AEW's Nick Gage, calling the deathmatch expert's chosen style of performing bad for the industry, saying, quote, "I just don't think that kind of thing works. Number one, it doesn't interest me, that style of wrestling. I think it's bad for the industry in general. I think it appeals to such a small portion of the audience that a larger portion of the audience is turned off by it," end quote. While making his comments on the 83 Weeks podcast, Bischoff made sure to clarify his thoughts on Nick Gage as his own subjective viewpoint and opinion, saying, quote, "I recognize that's my subjective taste. They're not trying to appeal to me, so I'm not criticizing them, being AEW, for doing it. I'm just telling you how I feel, in this case as someone who's been in the business for a minute and as a viewer," end quote. The former Raw general manager also had some issues with the recent Dark Side of the Ring episode about Nick Gage on Vice. While he had no problem with the show itself and even praised the show's storytelling, it seems he felt the episode was a little too dark. Former champion wants to work with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. Former NXT North American champion Bronson Reed wants to work with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. Earlier this month during WWE's Money in the Bank pay-per-view, Bronson Reed reacted to a tweet from the Universal Champion himself, Roman Reigns, teasing that he wanted to join him and the Bloodline. Speaking with the Sportster's Denise Salcedo, Bronson Reed mentioned that while he wouldn't be against aligning himself with the Bloodline, he would also be interested in fighting the trio, saying, quote, "Well, I think a lot of people online fantasy book that, so I just like to feed their ego a little bit, stir the pot a little bit. But I would not be against aligning myself with those guys. I've met them. They are someone that I feel I can definitely work with. But at the same time, I wouldn't be against fighting those guys as well," end quote. Roman Reigns has been ruling the roster of SmackDown for nearly a year now as the Universal Champion. The Tribal Chief was looking to set to face the returning John Cena in the main event of SummerSlam 2021. However, WWE added a major twist to the angle last week on SmackDown as Roman Reigns declined John Cena's challenge. Finn Balor then came out to the ring and laid out a challenge of his own, which the Universal Champion accepted. No one saw this twist coming, and fans are now excited to see where this angle goes from here. The common belief is that Roman Reigns will face Finn Balor before SummerSlam, and the latter accepts John Cena's challenge. But some fans also think that WWE could be planning to book a triple threat match between the three at SummerSlam. As for the Usos, they won the SmackDown Tag Team Championship from Rey and Dominic Mysterio at Money in the Bank. The two teams are still feuding with each other, and we might see a rematch between the two at SummerSlam. Thanks for watching today's Sportskeeda Wrestling News Roundup. For more news stories and exclusive content, be sure to follow us on all social media. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Download the Sportskeeda app for the most up-to-date stories in the world of wrestling.